The trouble with starting anything is that you then have to end it, and endings are hard. Take this sentence, for example, which... Even harder to end than sentences are video games, which have complex stories and characters and whole teams of writers, and yet still sometimes don't include a proper ending, and instead wrap up their story in a DLC that only a handful of people who played the main game ever end up experiencing. See for yourself in these 7 times a game's real ending was in downloadable content, as suggested by the comments on our previous video on this topic. Enjoy, beware major spoilers ahead for the following games, and end of introduction. Finish now. Introduction finish now. Man, I'm bad at this.
This way.
Big brother! He's my brother!
We're your family.
In a saucy move, the makers of tactical RPG Fire Emblem Fates released 2 versions of their game, each with a different ending. After a particular point, the story diverges so that in the Birthright version of Fire Emblem Fates, you ally yourself with the anime cuties of the light side coded Kingdom of Hoshido, which is your birthplace.
Yokatta.
In the Conquest version of Fire Emblem Fates, on the other hand, you ally yourself with the anime cuties of the dark side adjacent Kingdom of Nor, by which you were adopted. This divergence leads to 2 endings which differ in tone and circumstances, but share the quality of leaving a bunch of questions unanswered and a bunch of royal siblings dead.
I cannot fall into the hands of an enemy, so
So which is the true ending? Trick question! The answer is neither. In both the Birthright and Conquest routes through the game, many things are left unexplained, especially by mysterious songstress Azura, who's always like, I'm sorry, but that's not something I can talk about right now. Which, as you may have suspected, is a clever code for buy the DLC and then I'll tell you everything. Because the true ending was tucked away in a 3rd version of Fire Emblem Fates, which was only available as DLC, called Fire Emblem Fates Revelation, on account of all the stuff it revealed. Stuff like a hidden 3rd kingdom called Valor, of which Azura is a secret princess. Also, the secret antagonist Anankos, a massive purple dragon who was pulling the strings all along, manipulating both the Hoshido and Nor kingdoms into endless war.
yes.
Defeat Anankos and complete Revelation, and you're treated to the shiny, happy, good time true ending, where all the anime cuties make friends.
Yay! We're friends now! Friends.
And the 2 warring kingdoms make peace and thank you directly for making it happen.
We swear to you.
All in a day's work for me, the protagonist, and my extra $20 for the DLC.
If there's one thing worse than a beloved character dying, it's a beloved character dying off-screen. I'm still raw about Samuel L. Jackson in Jurassic Park, and that was, oh god, 33 years ago. In the universe of Final Fantasy XIII, there is no more iconic character than Lightning. Yes, she might have picked a name that makes her sound like an American gladiator, but she was the popular playable hero of the original Final Fantasy XIII, and introduced the usually painfully earnest Final Fantasy series to the concept of sarcasm.
I'll finish this focus and keep Sarah safe. That's my promise.
Great job so far.
Good first attempt. See, Lightning, that's how it's done. Lightning's adventures in Final Fantasy XIII were popular enough to spawn a direct sequel, a rarity in a series where each game tends to have a unique setting. And while she wasn't the protagonist in Final Fantasy XIII-2, she was still a key part of the plot, as the guardian of a goddess called Etro. So that's why it's a bit of a surprise when, after you defeat Final Fantasy XIII-2's antagonist Caius in the final boss battle, he reveals that he killed Lightning off-screen.
Lightning is dead. I killed her with my own hands.
You assume he might be lying, but then about 15 minutes worth of cutscene later, it's revealed that she is now a crystallized statue. Honestly, the way the world is right now, that actually sounds quite nice. It's only by picking up the DLC called Lightning Story Requiem of the Goddess, released 6 months after the game itself, that it's revealed that while Caius did defeat Lightning, she actually willingly chose to become crystallized as a sort of hibernation.
There are ways to keep a thought alive, and I know one that works for sure. Indestructible crystal. Even in the sea of chaos, it never loses its shine.
It's also this that allows her to return in the appropriately titled follow-up, Lightning Returns. Finally, a straightforward game name. I hope you're taking notes, Prinny 2 Dawn of Operation Panties, dude.
My encampments have been gutted, but maybe they missed something.
Dead Rising 4 sees hero Frank West returning to Willamette, the setting of the first game, in the wake of a zombie outbreak on Black Friday that has turned packed mallfuls of shoppers from shambling consumers into shambling consumers of human brains. If this premise sounds familiar, you might remember it from Dead Rising 1, Dawn of the Dead, the Dawn of the Dead remake, Night of the Comet, Biozombie, and Dead Rising 2. So yes, as a satire of consumerism, it's a little heavy-handed, but as Frank battles to save society by stopping a sinister organization from harnessing the zombie plague to create cheap undead labor, it's clear Dead Rising 4 is fighting its own battle, to warn us of the rampant commercialization of the holidays. And sure, that message might get a little lost if you get distracted violently smashing your way through hordes of elves in a weaponized ATV, but... What was I talking about? Christmas or something. Anyway, when you reach the end of Dead Rising 4, Frank and his pals Brad and Vic are leaving via helicopter, only for Frank to sacrifice himself so that the others can escape without him.
Keep your eye on the prize.
We then get a little postscript VO from Vic talking about Frank's story, and the game ends, drawing a line under the life of Frank West once and for all.
But Frank's not here to tell his story, so he's got to trust me to do it, whether he wanted it that way or not.
That is unless you played the Frank Rising DLC, where it turned out that Frank West actually had quite a lot more to do, even after being dogpiled by a horde of the undead. If you never played this DLC, then you never found out that Frank was resurrected as an Evo zombie with a host of cool new powers, like the ability to spit acid. You also never saw Frank regain control of his body, collect a bunch of wasps to augment his new abilities, and get this, get cured back into an actual human before escaping Willamette in an evacuation helicopter. Then, depending on how many wasps you collect in the DLC, you get one of the game's 2 real endings. The bad Not Enough Wasps ending, where Frank retires from journalism and spends the rest of his life worrying about turning back into a zombie. Or the good Enough Wasps ending, where Frank writes a best-selling book about his experience as a zombie and exposes the government's involvement in the events of the game. Which, I don't know, seems like quite a lot of important story to paywall behind a $10 DLC. Hang on, unless this is more satire on consumerism. Hats off, Dead Rising 4, you've done it again.
Your duty is done. It is time to end your magic. Kill the Inquisitor.
Of all the comments on our previous video suggesting games where the true ending was hidden in DLC, number 1 with a bullet was BioWare's sprawling 2014 fantasy RPG, Dragon Age Inquisition. Which means I get to talk shit about Solus. So it's a good day.
The Veil took everything from the elves, even themselves.
In Dragon Age Inquisition, Solus is a kind of bipedal egg who joins your crew, ostensibly to help you plug the huge apocalyptic hole in the barrier between the physical world and the world of spirits, through which a load of demons are getting in. You know Solus mostly as the quiet, smooth-scalped elf mage who lives in your library being a nerd because you never bring him on missions.
You also know the burden of a title that all but replaces your name.
I'm trying to cultivate a vibe here, Solus. Solus might not be my cup of elvish tea, but he is at least on my side, and generally on the side of not destroying the world. Or so we were led to believe.
You will kneel.
Even at the end of the game, after you have defeated Corypheus, the deformed ancient power-mad Darkspawn and supposed big bad evil guy of the game, you have no idea what was really going on.
I suspect you have questions.
Not until Dragon Age Inquisition's third and final single-player story DLC named Trespasser did this game finally show its hand, by which I mean reveal that your shrimpiest colleague was actually an avatar of the ancient elven god of betrayal, Fen'Harel, aka the Dread Wolf. In this DLC epilogue, it turns out all of the apocalyptic stuff going down in Dragon Age Inquisition was actually because of Solus.
You should not have given your orb to Corypheus, Dread Wolf,
who actually wants to destroy the barrier between the physical world and the world of spirits. Never mind that this will kill almost everybody.
If they must die, I would rather they die in comfort.
That's why Solus arranged for his magical orb MacGuffin to wind up in the hands of spiky red villain Corypheus.
The plan was for Corypheus to unlock it, and for the resulting explosion to kill him. Then I would claim the orb.
Where this plan went wrong was when Corypheus did not get exploded, then kept the powerful orb, then was defeated by you, the Inquisitor, and you smashed the orb, rendering it useless, thus saving the world from Solus. I'd sure like to smash his orb, by which I mean his big smooth head.
You took my life. You twisted everything I lived for.
If you played the 2008 Prince of Persia, or even if you just watched enough Outside Xbox videos, you'll know that it ends with your companion Elika sacrificing her life to seal away a force of evil known as Ahriman, after which you go for a wander with her dead body while the credits roll. Alright, Francoise the Dude Emery, can we keep the fun nicknames to ourselves for a bit? A woman is dead. Because self-sacrifice is for chumps without abs, Prince undoes all of that to resurrect Elika, who revives with all the gratitude of me being woken up by the postman on my day off. And there the game ends, with Elika being rescued by Prince from the maelstrom of corruption caused by Prince, and evil god Ahriman on the loose once more. So in this cliffhanger ending, the dark forces of corruption have a new stranglehold on the kingdom with a view to engulfing the world, and it looks like nothing can stop them. Cheery. That wasn't the end of the story, however. The year after Prince of Persia came out, developer Ubisoft Montreal released a DLC epilogue in which Elika and our hero escape the forces of darkness some more in an underground palace, while she has a go at him for, dooming everyone.
Elika?
And the prince defeats Elika's father, the Morning King, once and for all. After which he runs off in search of someone who won't make a deal with the god of darkness and doom everyone.
Elika, you can't do this alone.
I know. That is why I must find my people.
Elika! Elika!
Which nicely sets up the next game in the Prince of Persia series, which never happened, because the year after this DLC, in 2010, Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands came out and totally ignored the plot of the previous game. So whatever all that was, I guess it was the real ending. Hope Elika had a nice time doing whatever it was she was going to go and do.
But there is one tiny catch. I'm gonna need you to go ahead and go in there.
Oh, there's a party in my brain and you're all invited!
Borderlands the pre-sequel gets its somewhat confusing name from the fact that it came out after Borderlands 1 and 2, but is set between Borderlands 1 and 2. As such, it gives us a glimpse into the pre-Borderlands 2 lives of some of our favourite characters, and also Claptrap.
Because my programming forbids me from doing otherwise!
Yes, hello Claptrap. At the end of Borderlands, the pre-sequel, we see Handsome Jack evolve from an in-over-his-head, low-level Hyperion programmer to the maniacal, disfigured supervillain for the planet of Pandora to deal with in the game to come.
I'm gonna kill her. I'm gonna kill them all.
However, there are still plenty of questions left unanswered, not least what happened to Claptrap between the events of Borderlands the pre-sequel, where he is a capable if annoying member of your vault hunting team, and Borderlands 2, where he is, well, just annoying.
And then you shall dance for my enjoyment!
This question was not left unanswered if you played the pre-sequel's Claptastic Voyage DLC, in which the Vault Hunters, including Claptrap himself, enter a simulation of Claptrap's mind to recover a cache of Hyperion secrets known as the H-Source.
I've found something so ludicrously powerful that, well, naturally, it must be mine.
Like Inception, if Cillian Murphy was a small, stupid robot. After a wild ride through Claptrap's consciousness that includes the introduction of an evil Claptrap called Shadow Trap, Handsome Jack initiates a purge of all Claptrap units that culminates in Claptrap being betrayed by Jack, shot and dumped in a pile of other deactivated Claptraps in Windshear Waste. At this point, Shadow Trap sacrifices himself to resurrect Claptrap, leaving him just active enough to be rescued and repaired by Sir Hammerlock. Which is where we find him at the start of Borderlands 2.
Great, another dead Vault Hunter. Handsome Jack's been busy.
Did a deeper, downloadable content exploration of Claptrap's psyche make him less annoying? Viewer, it did not. But here we are.
What a touching family reunion. The mother, the son, the daughter, and the sword. There's only one thing.
Fable is a famous role-playing game series named after all the stories that Peter Molyneux made up about things that would be in the game that later weren't, I think. In spite of the fact that you absolutely could not plant an acorn as a child and come back and see it as an oak tree when you returned as an adult, people were still rather fond of Fable when it came out on Xbox in 2004, thanks to its rich fantasy world and distinctively British humour.
Please, my dear, I can explain everything.
You filthy swine! I ought to chop them right off!
Given that Britain's other major pop cultural contribution in 2004 was Simon Cowell being extremely mean to people on American Idol, we really needed this. Fable told a sprawling story, but it all reached a denouement as you, the hero of Oakvale, faced off against the fearsome Jack of Blades, an evil, masked character who is shaped like a human and absolutely not shaped like a dragon. Does him not being a dragon seem a strange thing to mention? Let me explain. You see, while the original Fable does have an ending, 4 of them in fact, none of them are the actual proper ending. Fans would have to wait for Fable The Lost Chapters to release a full year later in 2005 to discover the true ending of the game. And while it was a little early for the Lost Chapters expansion to be downloadable content, in many ways it was even worse, because Xbox players would have to buy the whole game again in its Lost Chapters form to play the additional 9 quests included in the expansion. 9 quests that would reveal that Jack of Blades wasn't actually dead after all, and in fact would return as a gigantic dragon. That's not so much a plot twist as a plot full 180. Defeat Jack of Blades in his new, more toothy, fire-breathing form, and you'll unlock the true ending decision of the game, where based on your moral choices throughout the game, you decide whether to cast the Jack of Blades mask into the lava, defying its evil allure, or don it yourself and become a supreme villain of seemingly impossible power. Much the same as Simon Cowell's origin story, I assume.
I told you I could not be killed so easily, hero.
So those were 7 times that the real ending of a game was in DLC, as inspired by your comments on our previous video on this subject. If you want to see the real ending of this video, it is contained within one of these. It's split actually across these 2 videos. So you need to get the code from this one. You'll input that into that one, and it'll unlock the golden egg, and that goes in the egg hole. And then, well, I won't spoil it for you, but you got to see it. It's good. It's good.